right, folks, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Millstone Report. My name is Paul Harrell. As always, we can't do the show without you watching. We really very much appreciate it. Happy Friday to everybody out there. Hope you have a wonderful weekend and a blessed Lord's Day this weekend. We got a great show for you as always. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody out there of this portion of the program brought to you by redvivehealth.org/Paul. Go to Red Vive Health or call 866-726-8483, and we'll tell you more about the healing power of red light and the great red light panels Big Pharma doesn't want you to know about a little later in the broadcast. Trump is concluding his really just incredible week, his tour across the Middle East, inking deals. I think there was over in the UAE, there is a $4 billion, this was announced yesterday, we've got the footage, a $4 billion investment in, I guess, Oklahoma. They're going to make an aluminum plant. It's going to be the first aluminum smelter created in America, according to what I read, since 1980. Pretty incredible stuff. Of course, this is in addition to the trillions of dollars or billions of dollars of investing that has been announced through Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. So pretty incredible stuff, but that's not where we're starting today. We're starting today. Last night, the internet just absolutely exploded because James Comey called to assassinate President Trump. I'm sure many of you have seen this by now, but it's pretty incredible. James Comey would have us believe that he was just randomly walking on the beach and he saw this particular shell formation, 8647. Of course, he constructed this himself and posted it, and it basically took off. I mean, we've got calls from, everybody from Kristi Noem to Marsha Blackburn to Donald Trump Jr. People are saying James Comey should be prosecuted, should be arrested for this. People are, of course, here's the deal. There's some people that think that James Comey is already about to be prosecuted for all of his crimes, essentially, or apparent crimes, I guess I should say, but I think we all know he participated in framing Donald Trump for treason. We're going to do a little bit of we're going to go down memory lane. Before all of this, James Comey had, before, the last 8 years, James Comey had a Boy Scout reputation as some sort of, really, really good, upstanding government official who, I'm going to walk you through how he got the Boy Scout image. I posted this on my X account at Real Paul Harrell earlier. It has to do with the 2004 John Ashcroft near-death experience. The Attorney General in the Bush administration, John Ashcroft, and a battle they had with the White House counsel, the then White House counsel, Alberto Gonzales. I remember covering this, I wasn't in radio in 2004 when this actually happened, but I remember covering this on radio before, back in 2009, 2010. Or maybe this would have been in the Trump administration, because I was trying to get to the bottom of James Comey's Boy Scout image. So some of this is going to be retread for me, but hopefully not for you. But it's just incredible. Here is Clandestine over on X, and he makes this point. So while Trump is busy securing peace in the Middle East, disgraced former FBI director and deep state rat James Comey is calling for the assassination of Trump. 86 is a restaurant/business term for get rid of, and 47 being the reference Trump. But it's honestly, it's also a mob reference, right? You take somebody 8 miles outside of town and you put them 6 feet under. That's what this is. And the idea that James Comey, who then deleted the tweet and said, "I didn't realize I was calling for violence," is absolutely ridiculous. Now, there's another angle to this story as well that is fascinating. He tweeted this on the 8,647th day since September 11th. So people are, and I checked it out. I mean, that's the first thing I did this morning. At least I used Grok, and it said that today was the 8,648th day since September 11th, 2001. So yesterday, obviously, this is, there's some people saying that it's not I don't know. I saw some people saying out there that it wasn't the exact date, but some people seem to think that it is. And so when I saw that this morning, my first reaction was, Trump is securing peace. Trump is trying to end wars. Trump is trying to end conflicts. And we kind of referenced this earlier in the week. One of the things that could attempt, at least, that's kind of a strategy to pull America back into a war in the Middle East would be some sort of terrorist attack where they blame Iran. Interestingly enough, a similar thing already happened. I mean, if we go back, we're talking about the assassination of Donald Trump. Let's go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, just for a second. If you go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we see that the Secret Service allowed this guy brandishing a rifle to walk around with a rangefinder, I think. They don't secure the roof where the shot allegedly comes from. We still have a lot of questions about the water tower or whether there was a second shooter. But this Crooks guy is on the roof, and we get the story back from the Secret Service, the lady Secret Service person. Well, we didn't secure it because it was dangerous and the roof was sloped. And, of course, the slope was not dangerous at all, and still that's not even an excuse to not secure the perimeter. They left it wide open. Now, for since this entire time, the entire time, my take on all this was if the assassination attempt of Trump at Butler, Pennsylvania, if that had been successful, the story that we were given of how was this allowed to happen would have still been the same. A story that no one would have bought, especially those on the right. They would have assumed that this was intentional. And millions of Americans to this day assume that this was allowed to happen and that the Secret Service set President Trump up to be killed. Wouldn't be the first time. And so I think it's important to go back and revisit this, or what happened with, the Routh character who was, used to be a media darling, talking about, we got to get more troops over in Ukraine. The guy in the bushes, at the golf course. So it's important to recognize that at the time, had the assassination been successful, I think the story would have been the same. Nobody would have bought it, and it was an attempt to create, I think, civil war conditions, and they could have very well even canceled elections, and the authoritarian, the authoritarian results would have been, horrible for this country. So it's important to realize that. It's also important to say, if you go back and you look at what happened to John F. Kennedy, as I said, wouldn't be the first time. Clandestine reminds us that one of the reasons people think that John F. Kennedy was murdered by our own government was because the CIA wanted to go to war. The military-industrial complex wanted to go to war. JFK refused, didn't want to go to war with Cuba, didn't want to go to war in Vietnam, didn't want to go to war in Laos. Many people think that it's just you can't avoid the fact that this is tweeted, or this was posted on Instagram by James Comey at a time where it looks like Donald Trump is securing some form of peace by using economics and diplomacy, and the concept of, hey, why can't we all just be rich together instead of bombing each other into oblivion? Something to think about, right? Here is the man himself, Donald Trump, reacting to James Comey calling for his death.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he wasn't calling for violence.
Why does Brett Baer why is Brett Baer trying to be the defense attorney here for James Comey? Obviously, he apologized. That's ridiculous.
But look, he's a very bad...
What do you want to see happen?
What do you want to see happen? I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this, I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
So is James Comey about here's another theory about this. The idea is that James Comey is about to be indicted anyway, and James Comey did this to create, a media frenzy and to get his leftist friends in the media. If he is, if he is indicted, now he can blame this, and he can claim that he was indicted for a social media post, right? Instead of all of the other crimes that he has committed, as Donald Trump called him, a dirty cop. So this could have been an effort by James Comey to get out in front of a coming indictment. So that's something to think about as well. But I don't know. Then you also have this peculiar, period of time, 8,647 days since September 11th. Again, it also could be, hey, something's got to give. The idea that people don't talk, that these intel oligarchs don't talk in code with social media posts is, I just think it's confirmed that they do this. Remember when Ghislaine Maxwell was reading a book about, CIA spooks? People were trying to figure out, where is Ghislaine Maxwell? This is before she was arrested. Where is Ghislaine Maxwell? And then she posts a photo, or somebody posts a photo of her out in public reading a book about the CIA and spook. And I think it had to do with people being killed by the CIA. These are code photos, and there are people out there that know what they mean. We can speculate what they mean, but so it's possible. It's both situations, but I guess both could be true as well. Here is Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, went on after this news broke last night with Jesse Waters. Listen.
Tulsi Gabbard's the director of national intelligence. Are you buying that the former FBI director didn't know what 86 Trump meant?
Absolutely not, Jesse. That is a ridiculous and insane statement to make, certainly within this context, but especially coming from a guy who's the former director of the FBI, a guy who spent most of his career prosecuting mobsters and gangsters, people who know and execute other humans and use this exact lingo of 86. Comey himself admitted in his follow-on message that he knew that this was a political statement. Well, the only reason he knew that, Jesse, was because a little over a month ago, a bunch of anti-Trump, anti-Elon Musk protesters were proliferating the use of this 8647 slogan, which was a veiled call to action to murder the sitting president of the United States. So for Comey to think that we, the American people, are so stupid as to think that he, as a former FBI director, former prosecutor, and someone who clearly pays attention to what's going on, would believe his lie that he didn't know what this actually was calling for, the dangerousness of this, Jesse, cannot be underestimated. When we have 2 assassination attempts on the president's life, when we have people who look to guys like Comey, who've been celebrated by MSNBC and the Democratic lead and CNN as the beacon of integrity, the law and order guy, the guy who would tell the truth no matter what the consequences. This is the guy who's issuing a hit on President Trump, the president that the American people voted for. So it's guys like Comey and others who call the president the modern-day Nazi, people who are in great positions of influence, who are saying that President Trump poses an existential threat to our country. These are people who hate democracy and hate the American people because they cannot stand that the people overwhelmingly chose to elect Donald Trump and send him back to the White House. So they are seeking other means to get their way and to try to remove him from that position.
How serious is the administration taking this, and what are the next steps going to be?
We're taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, the Department of Homeland Security, and specifically Sean Curran, the current Secret Service director, a man who has been willing to lay down his life as the lead of President Trump's Secret Service detail for years now. He takes this seriously and is leading the investigation into this threat. There has to be accountability for this. There was a Rutgers study that just came out a little over a month ago, Jesse, that asked respondents their view on these calls to assassinate President Trump. And over 55% of respondents felt that murdering President Trump would be, quote unquote, somewhat justified.
So here's the deal. You'll have to forgive me. Sometimes as a talk show host, I lose my train of thought. This is what happened earlier. So when I was talking about the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, I was trying to relate it to Iran. So after the Secret Service, failed to kill President Trump, let me just tell you how I really feel. By leaving it unsecure, and this is again giving the benefit of the doubt that the official narrative is even true. Again, there's still a lot of questions about the water tower or second shooters and that sort of thing. Trump survives. He survives. He gets shot in the ear, doesn't die. Turns into basically like one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, American photo ever. It was clear at that point he was going to get reelected in a landslide. And so what happens, I don't know, a week or two later, we get these headlines that Iran's trying to assassinate the president of the United States. Iran's trying to assassinate Trump. And then I think they arrested some guy for it. And at the time, it just makes no sense. Wait a second. You mean to tell me that the United States government, the Biden administration, is essentially caught dead to rights, leaving this Butler, Pennsylvania area totally unsecure, allowing for it to happen? Again, I think if it had been successful, it was to try to trigger a civil war and cancel the elections. It's just my opinion. And then a week later, after it's obvious that this was a setup, this is obvious that this was an orchestrated. You got the New York Times reporter there catching, with this high this high shutter speed camera. He's there. You have the reports that CNN, and I know some people like to fact check this. CNN decides to carry it live, and they hadn't carried previous events live. I mean, it was all orchestrated. We're gonna see Donald Trump get assassinated on live TV. And then a week or two later, after it's obvious that it was some sort of government setup, it's Iran's fault. It's really Iran. Let's distract from the fact that we just failed to assassinate the president, and now we're going to blame Iran. So at this point, with Comey in the 8647, also you've got the 9/11 coincidence. You've got Trump trying to not take America to war by securing economic deals, trying to get peace in Ukraine and Russia, although that's, doubtful according to Marco Rubio's comments today, unless Trump gets directly involved and meets directly with Vladimir Putin, which I think is going to happen at this point. We get this it's almost like a flare, like we need to start another war now. We desperately need to start another war now. Or we need to take President Trump out once again. But you heard Tulsi Gabbard there talk about how the left and the Democrats, the Mockingbird media, they love to tell us that James Comey is this beacon of truth, that he is this Boy Scout. And so if you want to know kind of where he got that image, I want to take you all the way back to the year 2004. Here's an NBC News article from, let's see, I pulled it, 2007. So it's talking about these events that happened in 2004. Headline: White House pushed Ashcroft in 2004 wiretaps. Now the irony here is going to be thick, but this is one of the early parts where James Comey starts to get this Boy Scout image, trying to stand up for domestic American freedoms when it comes to illegal wiretapping that was enabled by the Patriot Act. NBC News, 2007, President Bush's warrantless wiretapping program. This was back, I guess, when the left was against the intel oligarchs' massive surveillance state. President Bush's warrantless wiretapping program was so questionable that a top Justice Department official, that would be James Comey, refused for a time to reauthorize it, sparking a standoff with top White House officials that culminated at the bedside of an ailing attorney general, a Senate panel was told on Tuesday. Who were they told by? Well, there he is. Look at him. There's the young Jim Comey, gave a testimony. Chuck Schumer was there leading the witness, trying to make, George W. Bush look really bad, which isn't hard to do, let's be honest. But there he is. This was kind of the beginning of James Comey's Boy Scout image. And it centers around, you know what it centers around? Basically, John Ashcroft, at the time, John Ashcroft was the Attorney General. And James Comey was the Deputy Attorney General. Well, John Ashcroft gets very sick, and he ends up with pancreatitis, and apparently it was life-threatening. So James Comey was the acting Attorney General at that point, as John Ashcroft was in bed. So apparently, the White House wanted the Justice Department to sign off on illegal wiretapping of Americans under the Patriot Act. In the Justice Department, under John Ashcroft, they weren't so sure about it. They weren't so sure about the legality of it, and so they had not given the White House the okay and a legal interpretation that said that this was okay. And so Alberto Gonzales, who was George W. Bush's chief counsel at that point, goes to the bedside, the hospital bedside of John Ashcroft, and tries to get Ashcroft, who is apparently in and out of consciousness, to sign off on the warrantless wiretapping of Americans. But there, so the story goes, we're told, was Jim Comey, the Deputy Attorney General, who refused to go along with this and then called all this out. So 3 years later, that happened in 2004. 3 years later, in 2007, he's telling everything that happened. And this is what starts Jim Comey getting getting this Boy Scout-like reputation. And it's extremely ironic because they're dealing with wiretapping of Americans. And the irony is, whether or not we even believe this story, by the way, because at this point now, was this the point where Jim Comey was actually a Boy Scout, or was he a bad guy the whole time? I think he was a bad guy the whole time. That's just what my intuition says. But let's just assume he was the Boy Scout, and he was standing up back in 2004. He was standing up to the Bush White House, standing up to the illegal wiretapping, and didn't want a dying, at the time, he didn't die, but a potentially dying John Ashcroft to be manipulated into selling out the freedoms of the American people. Then he goes in front of Chuck Schumer's committee and he testifies. Let's assume that that's all true. It's very ironic that through the use of spying and independent contractors working for the FBI and a whole lot of other stuff, that James Comey was a part of setting Trump up. James Comey was a part of spying on Donald Trump and then framing him for treason. James Comey was orchestrating setting up Michael Flynn with the help of Mike Pence, and getting the FBI agents over there to go interview him and then catch him in a lie. They framed Mike Flynn for treason as well. It's just extremely ironic that this was over. This was all over. This Boy Scout image was all over this incident in 2004, over protecting the privacy rights of Americans. And Jim Comey then essentially uses the intel oligarchy, uses the surveillance state to try to frame Donald Trump for treason. And if you read this article, this is just the MSNBC one. There's another one over at Salon.com that I pulled, the Ashcroft-Gonzalez Hospital Room Showdown. A former Justice Department official recounts how White House officials attempted to bully ailing Attorney General John Ashcroft into approving the secret wiretapping program. And they put basically like a very dramatic, the call came in at 8 p.m. Wednesday, March 10th. Attorney General John Ashcroft was in the hospital, struck with a life-threatening case of pancreatitis. And Deputy Attorney General James B. Comey was just leaving his office, being chauffeured by a security detail. I remember exactly where I was. I was on Constitution Avenue, Comey testified Tuesday morning before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I got a call from Attorney General Ashcroft's chief of staff telling me he had gotten a call. So begins, Salon writes, a remarkable tale that nearly led to the resignation of the Justice Department's senior leadership, an ordeal that was recounted in great detail for the first time on Tuesday. Two senior White House officials, Andrew Card and Alberto Gonzales, were headed to Ashcroft's hospital bed, despite the instructions of his wife that there would be no phone calls or visitors. They wanted Ashcroft to sign off on the secret National Security Agency wiretapping program, a program that Ashcroft had already decided to reject before falling ill. Comey was determined to stop them. So I hung up the phone, Comey told the committee, and I immediately called my chief of staff and told him to get as many of my people as possible to the hospital immediately. I hung up, called FBI Director Robert Mueller. Hello? I hung up immediately. I called FBI Director Robert Mueller, and with whom I'd been discussing this particular matter and had had a great deal of help over that week, and told him what was happening. He said, I'll meet you at the hospital right now. I told my security detail that I needed to get to George Washington Hospital immediately. They turned on the emergency equipment and drove very quickly to hospital. I got it. So it's very much like a Michael Corleone, oh my goodness, my dad's not being guarded by the right guards. The police have run off. I've got to get to the hospital. They're really setting up a Michael Corleone moment here. They turned on the emergency equipment. I got out of the car, literally ran up the stairs with my security detail. The story gets better at this point. Comey's testimony reads like a detective story. Minutes later, there's a showdown in the hospital room, and Ashcroft, buffered by his wife and three of his senior deputies, faces down Gonzales and Card and refuses to sign off on the spy program. Gonzales and Card storm out of the room. Card calls Comey and demands that he come to the White House, but Comey refuses to go until he can get Ted Olson, the Solicitor General, to accompany him. After what I just witnessed, he says, I will not meet with you without a witness. This is where James Comey gets his Boy Scout image, if you wanted to know. This is where it started. President Donald Trump, though, calling him a dirty cop. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The darling of the media, the one cop in America with integrity, obviously eventually gets the FBI job, but he's been in the system for forever. He knows where all the body's buried, and he certainly knows what 8647 means. There's no question about it. And James Comey knows this. Speaking of framing General Flynn for treason, this was General Flynn on Benny Johnson's show a while back.
We got whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, and we're funneling it into the right governmental offices to do the right things. And let me tell you, these people are busted. And so for Jim Comey, that's what I said earlier. Jim, if you get this message, start thinking about what you're gonna give up, because you're gonna give up some of your freedom because you're gonna go to jail. You must go to jail because of what you did. But maybe they'll cut you a little bit of a deal, and they'll put you in a softer prison for a shorter period of time because you're able to give up some evidence on some of these other people who are even more deeper than you involved in this. Because Jim, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Wow. So that kind of lends to the theory. Who was it? Was it Brian Cates? Brian Cates says the suspense of when they were coming for him probably got to Comey. He knows it's coming. So he's trying to move things along, is my take. He wants to come in. That's one way to look at it. I don't know. Maybe he's trying. Maybe he wants to flip on some people. Who knows? Maybe he wants protection. I don't know. It's fascinating. Hey, before we go any further, I want to tell you about Red Vive Health. I want to tell you about these great red light panels. I gave this audience too much information the other day, but I'm going to share it for you again. Nobody wants to know about your, talk show host's feet, but I'll just tell you this winter my feet started, cracking. I thought it was maybe the shampoo. I thought maybe it was the dry air. And I developed like this eczema. I don't know if it's ever happened to you. And I've just, I've been treating it with steroid cream or whatever, but it's just kind of persistent. And no, it's not a fungus. Anyway, so the other day, and I'd use the red light panel almost every day. It's incredible. But it doesn't really get on it doesn't shine on my feet because I sit in front of it with a chair. So anyway, I just decided, hey, I'm going to try this. So, and after 2 treatments, I prop my foot up on a chair and just let the red light hit it for 5 minutes a foot, and it's incredible. Like the eczema on my feet is almost totally gone now. And so this stuff really does work. The red light really does work to produce collagen, increases blood flow. Then the near infrared light penetrates deeper into the body where you actually, where it reaches the mitochondria of your cells. And this is just one instance, folks. It does so many. I've got family members now coming over and using this for pulled back muscles. I've got family members coming over and using this after falls where they have bruises, and it literally, the bruise heals from the point of contact all the way out, right? So if you got a bruise and it spreads, then it starts turning white in the middle of the bruise and heals, basically heals it the same way that it spread out to begin with. This stuff is incredible. This is technology, clinical strength red light panels. You can get it. There are other competitors out there, but you're not going to find the quality and the power that you need to really get the red light, to where it's the most beneficial. And so I want you to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul and get the discount, 0% interest financing, 60-day money-back guarantee, or you can call 866-726-8483. That's 866-726-8483 and experience the healing power of red light today. We're going to take a 60-second break and be back in just a moment after we hear from our good friend, America's pillow salesman, Mike Lindell.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows, only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Also, huge summer savings right now. MyPillow.com, up to 80% off. Make sure you use the promo code PH. That's promo code PH at MyPillow.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank our next sponsor, which is Curable Premium Health, and we'll tell you more about the great CBD products you can get over at Curable.com a little later in the broadcast. So, the craziest part about this Jim Comey 8647, according to clandestine, and I agree, is that it's all happening while Trump is securing these peace deals in the Middle East. Are we supposed to actually believe that that's some sort of coincidence? I don't think so. The deep state, if you will, he writes, does not want Trump to bring world peace because when he does, not only are their money laundering operations shut down, but Trump will have the overwhelming approval of the American people. Also makes it very difficult to sell, to sell the fact, the idea that the Dems are going to take back the House. Although I think there's plenty of Republicans that want the Dems to take back the House. Donald Trump has a mess on Capitol Hill. He comes back from this trip, and he's got a mess on Capitol Hill with this do-nothing Congress. There's no question. FBI Director Kash Patel, after the news broke of James Comey calling for the assassination of President Trump, he says, we are aware of the recent social media post by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service and Director Curran. Primary jurisdiction is with the Secret Service on these matters, and we, the FBI, will provide all necessary support. Todd Starnes over at Fox News. Why isn't former FBI Director James Comey in federal custody right now? A threat against President Trump was posted on his Instagram account. This is unacceptable. Arrest this man now. What about this? Josh Hawley. Because 2 assassination attempts were apparently not enough for these people. So what does that say, by the way? Is this Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri? He's essentially saying this was, you could kind of intuit that he's saying that Comey was behind, in some way, shape, or fashion, the first 2 assassination attempts that we know of, by the way. I mean, there's 2 public assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life that we know of. I think it's safe to say that there have been many more that we don't know about. You thought it was a shock when they arrested a corrupt judge, D.C. Drano writes, and a violent mayor. Just wait until they arrest a former FBI director for threatening the president. I think they need to arrest him for his other crimes. But, yeah, sure. As the frenzy last night on X and other places, lock him up and arrest him, were trending at one point after James Comey posted the threat of President Trump. Eric Daugherty reminding everybody of this and actually encouraging more people to say it so that it trends even higher on X. Congressman Tim Burchett, according to Patrick Webb, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee calls for the arrest of former FBI Director James Comey following alleged threat directed at President Trump. Senator Marsha Blackburn, James Comey, she writes, James Comey is posting cryptic messages online alluding to getting rid of President Trump. Would he like to explain what he means by this given the assassination attempts on President Trump? Yeah, they're not. The only thing here, it's not cryptic. Okay, this is not cryptic. Okay, everybody knows what this means. Secretary Kristi Noem. So DHS's Kristi Noem, disgraced former FBI Director James Comey, just called for the assassination of President Trump. She's calling it right down the line. DHS and Secret Service is investigating this threat and will respond appropriately. Donald Trump Jr., just James Comey casually calling for my dad to be murdered. This is who the Dem media worships, demented. And again, why do they worship him? Well, because he has a Boy Scout image. Because he's also seen as in opposition to Donald Trump. He was fired by Trump. But it really also goes back to this 2004, this we just talked about in 2004, standing up for the privacy rights of Americans, which is a complete joke. Then we have Ed Krastenstein, one of the Krastenstein brothers, posting, pool table balls, 8647. Saying it's time. And he posted this on May 15th. Posted this at the same, the same day. And then he comes back and says, for the record, I'm 100% against violence in any form. Stop creating bogus meanings to try and investigate your political opponents. So this is, if they do go after Comey for this will be the new leftist thing. So it's very possible that all of this was generated by Comey as a giant distraction from his other crimes and a pending indictment. For, framing President Trump for treason, leaking classified information to the media. You know they've got him dead to rights over leaking classified information to the media. Owen Schroyer. Now, here's where it comes back. So Owen Schroyer responds to ALX on X. 8,647 days since 9/11 is crazy. What are the odds, Owen writes, what are the odds that was a coincidence? 0. So what was the message? Well, if it's not a coincidence, which I don't think it is, I think the most natural thing is, unfortunately, I just don't think, I think a false flag terrorist attack has probably never been more likely given Donald Trump's moves in the Middle East. And the idea that Americans may be starting to see Islamic countries is, and the idea of Muslim extremism as not the greatest threat that we thought it was, circa September 12th, 2001. And so an attempt to get the American psyche back into a post-September 11th, immediate post-September 11th mindset. Of we've got to go back to war in the Middle East right after we've just finally gotten out of the Middle East. And we've been in the Middle East meddling for, my entire lifetime, basically. Again, you've got the Gulf War in the 90s, then you get Afghanistan in 2000, 2001, then you get, we don't leave till 2021, and you got Iraq. We go into Iraq in 2003, we don't get out of Iraq until 2011. It's endless forever wars. And the American people are sick of it. The question is, would a false flag terror attack on U.S. soil, would this card work? Would it work against the American people again? Now, it doesn't really have to work against the American people. I was talking to a friend about this. It doesn't really have to work. We'll all be skeptical of it. But will it give the leaders, certainly the media is going to parrot it, will it give American leaders, will people like President Trump fall for it? That's really the question. Apparently, you only got to really convince one person. James Comey. Here's a flashback. James Comey on Inside Jen Psaki, or Psaki, or however you say her name, talking about the logistics of putting President Trump in jail and how he would serve time in jail. This is rich.
Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population, but it's obviously doable.
Do you agree with that?
Wow. James Comey telling old Jen that it's doable. Oh, yeah, you keep him out of the general population. It's James Comey who's going to, it looks like it's James Comey who's going to want to find a way to stay out of the general population. That's what it seems to me. It's wild. We live in crazy times. This is nuts. So Jesse Kelly, on the Jesse Kelly Show, Department of Justice employee now. I mean, he was the U.S. Attorney for D.C., but he's now going to the Justice Department, going to be working on some of the same stuff, trying to get accountability, trying to get some of these people behind bars. This is what Ed Martin, by the way, Ed Martin went on Tucker's show, and it was fantastic, but this is what he told Jesse Kelly. Listen to this.
So what is a realistic expectation from people watching, myself included, who want criminals inside of the government arrested? I'm thrilled with the newest cartel guy going to prison. Yeah, I mean, throw the pedophiles in the Pacific Ocean for all I care. All that stuff sounds great. But if people have committed crimes with either party for any reason with their government position, for me, that's as serious as any crime on the planet, because you're taking a responsibility and you're abusing people's rights with it. But is it realistic to think we're going to see government people go to prison in the next 4 years?
Yeah, yes. The answer is yes. And here's what I'd say. Number one, everybody who's watching, and including you, Jesse, don't stop being pissed at the speed. We need to be faster. So don't stop, even at me, even at the good guys, right? And everybody. I agree with.
This is actually echoing exactly what I've been saying, because I know there are people on the right that are getting upset with others on the right who are impatient or highly skeptical. Maybe you're skeptical of Pam Bondi. And some people on the right are upset that, when Pam Bondi does something good, those who are super skeptical aren't giving Pam Bondi credit. My take on it has been, like when they arrest 200 pedophiles, some of them state troopers, like that, we applaud that, we celebrate that, we say thanks Pam Bondi, thanks Kash Patel, thanks for doing all that. But we also don't need to feel bad by also making an obligatory, oh yeah, what about Epstein? And we need to be as vocal as we can. There just needs to be more understanding, I think, in general on the right, with people who have a healthy skepticism of those in power and need to be, we have every right to not trust these people. We have every right to be as skeptical as we want to be, given what we know. And we hope and we pray people like Ed Martin are not the bad guys. We hope that they're the good guys. We hope that they actually, by the way, I didn't realize Ed Martin worked with Phyllis Schlafly back in the day, which is really encouraging in my opinion. But I think all of it's okay. I guess that's my point. All of it's okay. From my standpoint, I know that God is on his throne and he's reigning over all of this. And but at the same time, if you want to be vocal about why haven't you done this faster, Ed Martin is saying you're exactly right. We've got it. We need to. It's our job to just keep talking and keep the heat up on these people. And ultimately, if nothing happens, we are all going to assume they're in on it and part of a cover-up. And that's the thing. If you really put yourself in a Kash Patel shoes or a Pam Bondi shoes or an Ed Martin shoes, they've got to know that, right? Assuming they're the good guys. And that's an assumption, given. But they've got to know that, right? Like, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. If you go in saying we're gonna do something, we're gonna hold people accountable, we're gonna put these people in handcuffs, and then you don't do it, I mean, you know, you may be taken care of financially, but I mean, your name and your reputation will be dragged through the mud forever. I mean, everybody's just going to think that you're a sellout or you're part of it and you're covering up for your friends. And so that's kind of another scenario where, I don't know, it's just I think it's a healthy thing to think about. Anyway, he continues.
With it, because we're running against the clock. The clock is used against us. The Article 3 courts they slow us down. And I can tell you, as a prosecutor, you're looking at this, you're saying, this case is going to take 18 months. And you're thinking, 18 months from now, how are we going to be able to win the battle for the future of the country? So be mad about the timing. I just would say this. I'm in this, and I'm not, I don't care about being spit at. I mean, it's
he got a loogie hawked at him last week.
But I can tell you, I get threats against me and my family and all, and everybody does it. It goes into this. And so at this level and where we are, it's worth it because it's now or never. I mean, Jesse, you've written a book on this. You do it all the time. It's now or never. And so, yes, we want to drag them out when they're bad guys in cuffs, but we also have to realize every day Todd Blanche is the real deal. That's the DAG. He's the real deal. All day long, he's looking at ways to get at these people. They try to destroy his client and him. He represented Trump. And so I guess trust me is one way to say it. But more importantly, look, Reagan said trust and verify about the Soviets. I say when it comes to government, all of you should distrust and verify. Distrust everything even we say and verify it. Make us show you what we're doing. But just
100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I couldn't agree more with Ed Martin there. It is perfectly normal, given what we've all been through, as just Americans, and the lies, and the obvious deceit, the obvious corruption, the obvious wicked rulers that we have and have had, that we have a healthy skepticism that what they're telling us are just a continuation of all of that. So yeah, don't trust, but verify. I think I like that. That's pretty good. Oh, last thing on FBI Director James Comey, Jack Posobiec reminding us that back on June the 8th of 2019, this was James Comey wishing everybody a happy Pride Month. Sorry, guys, Pride Month is 15 days away or so, you need to gird up your loins for that. No pun intended. Pun intended. James Comey, happy Pride Month, everybody. Fidelity, bravery, integrity, and proud of it with the rainbow flag. Yeah, you also have to understand that, there's also the possibility that many of these people, like James Comey or like these deep state lifers, are also themselves sexually depraved in ways that we don't know. And so the idea that the American people have rejected the woke sex religion of the left, and it is woke and it is religion, they have their own dogma, and that the American people are rejecting that and coming out of that, that's if you're somebody who harbors like secret, let's just say that goes against sexual norms, that's also triggering to some of these people. It certainly was triggering to Victoria Nuland when, we do this color revolution in Ukraine in 2014, a year after Vladimir Putin says, no more LGBTQ RSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel propaganda in our country? I still am of the opinion that was at least a key pillar of one of the reasons when Russia starts to reject what's known as the Globo Homo agenda. You take, like Biden, when Biden was in office, you had that African country that outlawed sodomy, and you think, oh no, are we going to war with them next? We got to send the U.S. military because they've passed a law. Don't think that stuff doesn't matter. The social issues to the left, that's the goal. That's the society they want. All the corruption and all the grift and all of the stealing and the theft, but the goal is to tear down Christian morality. Like, that's the icing on the cake. That's the world they want to. That's the world they're trying to terraform. Okay, Kash Patel announces that the FBI is leaving the Hoover building.
In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. And that's what we're doing. In the next 3, 6, 9 months, we're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget
we
there.
want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
Interesting development. Also, here is another development. I know Trump, I think he's back home at this point, but this was an interesting announcement. $4 billion investment in Oklahoma for a new aluminum manufacturing facility.
Comey from EGA, Emirates Global Aluminum. Yes, pleasure.
Very good. You do a good job with the aluminum.
This is a very special project.
Here's a big, very special project. Please, go ahead.
Yeah. So, sir, this is UAE technology. Smelters. It's been developed over 35 years. And we're exporting it to the world. And the first big project in our group is the U.S. state.
So he says that they have developed. This is in the United Arab Emirates. This particular businessman has taken 35 years to develop a certain type of smelter technology, and they're now going to put them all across the world. And the first place they're going is Oklahoma.
State of Oklahoma. We're going to invest $4 billion. We're going to
investing $4 billion in Oklahoma, Doug. So if you want to move after you finish with the camera stuff, you can get a part-time job. I don't think you're going to be giving up the camera, right? Go ahead.
So, sir, today the U.S. produces about 700,000 tons. We're almost doubling that capacity.
So you heard that. The U.S. right now produces 700,000 tons of aluminum. This factory would almost double that number. And then you see there on the slideshow, he's showing the president. This is the first, this is a new U.S. primary smelter. It'll be the first new aluminum smelter in the United States since 1980. For all of those people that said, those jobs are never coming back, those manufacturing jobs, they're never coming back. Apparently they are. Apparently they are. Here is an update, as we're running out of time here, update from Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Turkey.
The level of team that was sent by the Russian side is certainly not indicative of one that's going to lead to a major breakthrough. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm 100% wrong. I hope tomorrow the news says they've agreed to a ceasefire. They've agreed to enter serious negotiations. But I'm just giving you my assessment, honestly. I don't think it's going to lead to that just because of the structure and how this is all played out. I think the next thing that has to happen here for there to be a breakthrough, if there's going to be one, is going to involve President Trump's direct involvement. And I believe the president shares my assessment.
This was kind of, we talked a little bit about this, but you know, some of the clips that we played over the week, I think Trump and Putin are going to have a meeting. I think that's where this is all headed. This is headed for Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin to actually sit down, the two of them, and talk about this. But they also have to gauge how serious Zelensky is about losing power. That's what this is about. The war ends, Zelensky is going to lose power. So you also have to think about that. Also, we shared a lot of Matt Walsh posts on X this week because it's the stuff with the white, the South Afrikaners and everything else. But Allie Beth Stuckey pointing out that progressives always have their Nazi glasses on. I would have never seen that. It's talking about a post that, and we covered this on the show. Matt Walsh posted a photo that I thought was AI of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 girls, 6 white girls. And he says, people who look like this have been living in the Americas for 5 centuries. If 5 centuries is not long enough to qualify as native, then how long do you need? If the answer is that your ancestors have to actually originate from the place, then nobody is native to anywhere. So where do you draw the line? Well, people on the left are saying that this image is actually a swastika. They're now saying that, and I don't see it at all, but they're saying that this image of blonde white sisters is actually a swastika, to which Matt Walsh responds this way. He writes, I've been in the middle of some BS outrage cycles in my day, but the one that some of you cooked up this week is probably the fakest of all. There are even conservatives hounding me and demanding that I apologize for a hidden swastika that someone else posted in a tweet that I replied to. Just to be perfectly clear to all of the slimy little smear merchants playing this game, I apologize for nothing. I owe you nothing. I will not explain myself to you. You all know exactly what you're doing. If anyone is owed an apology in this situation, it's me. But I don't expect one because that would require a level of honor and honesty that none of these trolls possess. Piss off, all of you, he writes. There's my statement for the many who have asked. That kind of, for a Friday, that kind of caps off. That caps it off nicely. And I wanted to cover this considering we did a few shows yesterday, or I'm sorry, a few shows last week, very skeptical of the Casey Means nomination for Surgeon General. And I stand by what we are reporting there. Dr. Cruz, Dr. Bowden, her brother Callie Means on that podcast, the Danny Jones podcast, and how Callie was hesitant to call for removing the COVID vaccine, to taking the COVID vaccine off the schedule for kids. And I still stand by that. I think it's a very good possibility that Big Pharma is trying to put all of the blame on big food and big agriculture. Again, our food is poison and dyes are bad. But there are two heads to the snake here, and I think Big Pharma wants to put it all on big food. And they don't want to actually talk about Big Pharma. They don't want to talk about vaccines and that sort of thing. But I do think, in interest of fairness, we need to cover this. Breaking RFK's HHS to stop recommending COVID shots for children, teenagers, and pregnant women. Now, this is a good step. The entire shot, in my opinion, needs to be pulled off of the market. And I think the evidence out there is clear. But this is certainly a good step for our little ones. And clandestine is on the page of those on the right who he gets upset when people are hyper skeptical of those who are in power. He says sarcastically, but I was explicitly told by countless clickbait influencers that RFK Jr. was compromised by Israeli blackmail and would not implement the Maha agenda. So that goes back to the Candace Owens, Ian Carroll. By the way, Ian Carroll did a great job filling in for Candace Owens, exposing that trampoline parks. I had no idea that when you go in and you sign a waiver at one of these places, that most of the time you are signing away your ability to sue in public court. And if something bad happens, you are actually signing away your rights and you are committing to secret arbitration where the judges in that system are easily corruptible and more easily bought than in the public court. I had no idea about that. But anyway, Ian Carroll did a fascinating deep dive onto basically, giant corporations. Remember when the left used to be against giant corporations? Yeah, those were the days. But anyway, it is a good thing that this is the latest development about the COVID vax no longer being recommended for women, teenagers, or children, teenagers, or pregnant women. And we have to give credit where credit is due there. It is certainly a good step in the right direction. And that's all the time that we have for this edition of the Millstone Report. I want to remind everybody out there to go to curable.com. That's Kuribl.com, Kuribl.com. Get your CBD from Curable Premium Health. Use promo code Paul20 and save 20%. CBD is incredible at fighting inflammation outside your body, like if you want to use the muscle cream, or inside. The tinctures, ladies and gentlemen, the tinctures are incredible. You drop it under your tongue. They also have pet CBD. If your pet is getting old, the joints are starting hurting, you never know what CBD can do to prolong the life of your pet. So check it out. CBD from Curable Premium Health, Curable.com. Use promo code Paul20. It's third-party tested. They don't use harmful pesticides or chemicals when they grow this stuff. They're committed to creating a clean product as well. And if you don't know about CBD and you're kind of stuck on the ibuprofen hamster wheel, consider looking and researching what Curable can do to help you fight chronic pain. That's Curable.com. Promo code Paul20 will save you 20%. Folks, that's all the time that I got today. I hope everybody out there has a great weekend. Now's the time of the show where I tell you that if you don't go to church, go to church. I want you to find a church. Start visiting churches. Find a church that preaches the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save people from their sins. And for those of you who do go to church, have a blessed Lord's Day. And unless I'm providentially hindered, I'll be back here Monday, wishing you a happy Monday. God bless.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based